serious caps on. Jesse's already got his serious cap ready to go. And we got ourselves a winner. We started it off with Monastery Swiftsphere being shredded to pieces. I didn't think I'd, say that sentence. But hey, I just commentate what I see on the screen.
59 cards, legal deck list. Jesse's in top 8.
Yeah. Oh, man. Do you think that was a statement that we're like, why play this Monastery Swiftsphere card anymore?
Yeah, that is an interesting feature of Julian's list. There are no Swiftspears, so that seemed like
not anymore.
Clearly, treat them like that. But yeah, big stage. Take it to soapbox, make it a statement.
Dang right. All right. Now I just want to see Jesse rip up one card. I don't care what it is, but.
Oh yeah. Well, Snarling Gorehound rip.
One of them's got to be slightly higher value, that's for sure. So.
There's a rule where if a card you own is damaged over the course of a tournament, a judge is allowed to issue a proxy.
That's true.
What happens if you self-damage it, though?
That is also a very good point. I think it's null and void if that's the case. Not going to be ripping up that island, I guarantee that. So we had the Gorehound into the Molt Tender. Get that Surveil. And here is a removal spell. The Abrade. I would say on the good dog, but that feels like the bad dog.
So it's interesting here where I would say that this is not the kind of game Is It Prowess wants to play against this Roots deck. You kind of get in the board, definitely the aggro deck. But the way Julian's deck is constructed, there are no Swiftspears. There is definitely a lower creature count. There's just more removal spells. So naturally you're going to draw them, and that's what you're going to have. So definitely on Julian here to find the pressure and get this game going before Jesse can get the engine online.
What do you think of Julian's list? Broad scope of things. 4 Slick Shot, 2 Drake Hatchers. You almost never see both. It's one or the other. And clearly no Swiftspears.
Yeah, it's interesting where, people have been shaving Show Off to make it like a little more robust.
Yeah.
And a little less, kind of all in. It's weird to cut the Swiftspears, which are very aggressive and all in, but then add the Slick Shot. So looking more as like a pseudo combo deck going for that big burst damage with the one huge Slick Shot attack.
Yep. Yeah, really interesting. So here is a bunch of otters. Takes a pain to cast the second one. And we're heading back Jesse's way. Let's see if we have the namesake card. I think that would be ideal here. Get the roots.
Yeah, Molt Tender is a great tool for these decks. This is a card. If you don't got it, you can mill. It's just a free, repeatable way to use your roots. And then, of course, adding mana is great, too. It's just a good mana dork as well.
Feeds the roots, generates the plants by tapping it, and mana. I mean, that is a phenomenal card when your 3 modes kind of help out your deck.
Yep. And for the cheapest cost possible.
Yeah.
It's a 1-drop, super easy to play.
If you could play 5 of either Molt Tender or Llanowar Elves in this deck, you probably play Molt Tender, huh?
Not close, yeah.
Yeah. Insidious Roots to the yard, not exactly where you want it, but here comes an impending Overlord. And let's see what we hit.
This play shows that Jesse is just a master of this deck, just understanding, all right, I want an extra card for Overlord here, I want to make sure that I hit. That's more important than mana on this stage of the game. Just the kind of little play, it looks a little weird. Why would you randomly mill like this, But I want to get that Overlord value, and then make sure things are rolling along.
Yep. Makes sense to me. There is a Gorehound, which looks like it was brought back. Can't bring back Insidious Roots with that. That would truly be busted. You can bring back some permanents with Overlord. But the Gorehound comes into play and feels like just a very big setup turn, honestly, from both players so far. 3rd Storm Chaser's talent coming down for Julian.
So the good news here is that following up these 2 removal spells just looked a little iffy into some actual aggression.
Yeah.
No Swiftspears, but these are very, very close, and again, kind of get this combat going.
A block on the 2/2s. Monstrous Rage boosts it up to a 6-power Trampler, so that's going to be 5 damage from the one otter, and then 3 from the other, totaling 8.
This is kind of my fear of this Roots deck against the the Prowess deck, where Monstrous Rage is when you're planning on chump blocking, kind of as your part of your plan to stay alive. Monstrous Rage becomes a real liability.
Puts a wrench in it, to say the very least. That is for sure. But hey, Julian looks like that is the end of the spells. There's one more card in hand. Didn't do anything this turn to push over the top. So if Jesse is able to find something, that shake of the head, though, leads me to believe that Maybe our hand is not the absolute best, but we will see. But if Jesse can have a good turn here, we still got ourselves a game, but this is a must.
This is the kind of round in a tournament where I really appreciate the player cams.
Yes.
Where, we have two human beings playing Magic here.
Yeah.
Perhaps, one of the bigger matches of their career, playing for top 8 of a major event. And it's tough. There's a lot weighing on you in these moments, and you get to kind of see all the little wrinkles and everything. It's excellent.
Yeah. And I would totally agree with you. For sure for Julian, we haven't seen a ton of Julian. I don't know a lot about him. But for Jesse, he had a moment exactly like this 2 weeks ago. Had double win-ins for top 8. Lost them both. Did not make it to our elimination rounds with that Boros Monument deck. And, just now got paired down where he has the record where he could draw. If Julian says, yes, I'd like to shake hands, we're in the top 8, he would be there. So, I don't even want to channel it into existence here, but to be this close twice would be really brutal. So Jesse wants to lock this one up.
So cool to have a chance again, though.
Yeah.
These tournaments are huge. They're difficult, so it's pretty rare to have a player playing for top 8 in 2 tournaments in a row.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, says the guy who I feel like I tuned into a top 7 plus Jim Davis at an SCG tour quite often.
Who, me?
Yeah, you. So like you were top 8 in every event. It was a top 7 plus Jim.
Those are good days.
Good days. Simpler times. All right, there's a stock up. I see 2 lands. Slick Shot Show Off, Corey Steel Cutter, and it looks like a cantrip as the options. And that is boosting up these otters as well. Anything in particular that stands out to you?
I mean, definitely want to cast another spell here. If Julian doesn't have a land in play, land is a must. I think land spell is excellent. The trample, again, what makes Monstrous Rage so good is that obviously that big turn, you cast it, you trample it for a lot of damage. The monster roll is like a big deal in these prowess decks,
it's annoying.
Because the prowess creatures always size up pretty well, and not being able to chump block them is an issue. So, 9 life here, 2 otters can be chump blocked. The Haywire Might's certainly expendable, but Jesse's got some work to do to kind of get things rolling before his otters really take it down.
My question was going to be, do you take land spell? Because I don't know really if you need to cast a spell this turn, or what if you get 2 spells to go off next turn? So I think even with another spell, it doesn't look like lethal to me, depending on how we block.
I guess the land, even without taking this, the land represents more damage.
Though, Jim, isn't this actually lethal? Well, Monstrous Rage almost assuredly lethal, but I was going to say, even with the Haywire Might, an Opt would have been lethal there, right?
As we have stock up 3, 6, and then trample. Yeah.
Because the Haywire Might ability would go on the stack. Oh, that's cute.
That is very cute.
That is cute. That does remove trample when you take the roll away. That's a true chump blocker where you gain 2. So now we're taking 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but gaining 2. So I think Jesse will be down to 2.
That was cool.
That was really cool.
You always kind of forget the roll as a card.
Yeah.
We saw one sacrifice to a Torch Tower earlier for bargain.
Yep.
And then, of course, here, it is an enchantment. It can be removed.
Yep. Okay. Jesse did the unthinkable, survived 2 Monstrous Rages.
Now the problem is, though, now what?
Concede.
All right. Problem indeed.
Hey, it was still cool. That is for sure. So that is Jesse falling on the first game here to Julian. And what are we doing from Jesse's side to help out in this Is It matchup? Because like we were saying, Jesse did just win this matchup last round against Connor. And I saw some of the cards. The Harvester of Miseries looked excellent. And we saw him bring in the Obstinate Balos and the Swarm Weaver and the Scavenging Goose. Sorry, I'm doing your job because I remember seeing all these cards in his hand.
I think this is different, though, because without Suspir, there's more focus on these Slick Shot show-offs. So a card like Bailoff is good when your opponent's kind of on the ground, kind of nickel and diming you, chip shot damage and stuff. But if they're going to attack for 9 in the air with a Slick Shot show-off, the Bailoff looks much less exciting.
Yeah.
But I do agree, Harvester Mystery looks pretty good. Scavenging seems solid, too. Swarm Weaver is nice. I think things that block Slick Shot show-off are important because Jesse doesn't have a lot of ways to kill a Slick Shot show-off.
Yeah.
So a lot of Jesse's deck is predicated on blocking. So the things that do that Makes sense.
Okay, sounds great. And then from Julian's side, how are you sideboarding against, this really tough deck to sideboard against Jund Roots? And that's the one thing I'll stress on. Jesse has tested against Izzet Prowess 1,000 times. How many times do you think Julian has tested against Jund Roots?
Maybe one random arena match.
Yeah.
While on Platinum 3. I don't know.
And shrugged it off and was like, nah, this isn't a real deck. Well, it's real.
Yeah. This is tough, how do you really attack the Roots deck with the cards that are available? You can't remove it. You can't disenchant it. You can counter it, but you're bringing a gate in the gate. There are so many creatures in the deck also, and I think you kind of want to just go fast. Julian knows that there aren't that many removal spells, if any, in Jesse's deck, so Julian can kind of just do the thing.
Yep.
So I don't think that Julian wants to go overboard with interaction here. I think it's mostly about executing a fast game plan with Slickshot Show Off. Probably going to bring in a gate, bring in a Spell Pierce, bring in a few little interaction here and there, but for the most part, I think it's just try and get Jesse dead.
Yep. Makes sense to me. So if you've been watching coverage this whole weekend, first of all, thank you so much for joining us watching some live Paper Magic. We really, really appreciate it. But if you want to be a part of the next show that we will be putting on, this is a couple weeks. We're taking next weekend off, and then we are heading to the beautiful city of Indianapolis. And this will be May 30th through June 1st. Go to StarCityGames.com/SCGCon if you are interested. Now, this is Magic Spotlight Secret Lair. This will be a modern event, open entry, and if you make it all the way to the top 8, you're heading straight to the Pro Tour, as well as a ton of fantastic prizes, including winning that event. You get to have a heavy hand. We'll see how heavy of a hand you get in designing or helping to design a secret lair, which definitely a prize that has never been offered, Jim.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool one.
Yeah.
And we've had many, many fun discussions so far. So, what would that look like? My son's artwork, my favorite T-shirts.
Yeah.
Maybe not that far. But, hey, you get in the room with them, you talk to them, and you figure it out. But win the tournament first.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll let you know, if I win that tournament, I'm going to start as, greedy as possible. I'm going to try to do the most Corey thing ever. I mean, granted, I won't be winning this. We'll be sitting exactly right here in 2 weeks. But if I did, I would start as greedy as possible and see how far they dial me back. Maybe just pure comic value.
So advice to the future winner.
Yeah. Hey,
all right?
hey.
Don't let Wizards push you around. All right? You hold firm.
All right. Yeah, maybe that. Maybe let them push you around. That'll be okay. That is a really cool prize that they are offering there. So big thanks to Wizards for just putting up these fantastic tournaments, as well as Star City Games for hosting them, bringing all this really, really cool action to your screen. And most importantly, wherever you're watching this broadcast, whether you're watching it live, you're watching it recorded, thank you so much for being here. For Jim, for me, Reed, Ailey, everyone for the production team. We really appreciate you hanging in here, and thanks for being cool.
They're cool. We're cool.
Everyone's cool.
Being cool is nice.
It's just been a cool weekend, I must say. Hartford's a cool city, too.
Yeah, we had a great lunch.
Yeah.
Nice little downtown spot.
Absolutely.
Definitely a lot of the fun of these events, it's just the actual traveling.
Yeah.
Indy in particular, I've been there so many times for events, and it's just a great city. Skywalks are really, really cool, good food, just great, just fun,
That's where I scootered for the first time, one of those, Lime or whatever kind of brand scooters. I was leaving a tournament after Ely and I just took 5th in a team event where a top 4 makes the, the cutoff, And I'm like, we need to make ourselves feel a little better. Let's ride these scooters around town. And believe it or not, he had an absolute blast. And we made ourselves feel better. So here we go. Llanowar Elf, Bolt the Bird here. Torch the Elf. I don't know. Still works. Llanowar Elf is dead. Jesse heading to his second turn. And hey, that was a good recipe for Julian for the last game. Kill the first creature, kill the second creature, and, Jesse really needs to plant his roots so that he can really start developing a wide battlefield. If you do not have those early creatures, your deck looks less impressive.
For sure. Yeah, a lot of utility creatures happening here, and a lot of work to set up, too. The issue that the Roots decks have had historically is that, there's just so many moving parts.
Yeah.
And you want to get Tyvar, you want to get a Roots, you got to get cards in the graveyard, have things to leave the graveyard, have a payoff. It's just a lot of things happening, and they don't always have time to set that up.
Yeah. Yep. That's really the problem, especially when you're playing against the deck that has prowess in its name. You don't get that much time.
One interesting note here is that there are only 3 Monstrous Rages in Julian's deck, which makes sense. The deck is less creature-focused.
Yeah.
A very important card in the matchup, though. Had 2 in the first game. Very, very beneficial. We'll see how frequent they are in this game.
Rumor has it he ripped up his Monstrous Rage when he started round 1.
Ah, yes.
That's not true, but...
That's why it's a rumor.
Exactly, yeah. Don't confirm it. All right, Insidious Roots, but no third land. And no graveyard right now. Another advantage to torch the tower.
Interesting choice here for Julian. So plot of his Slickshot show off. Okay, works are cut.
Now
okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so because like a lot of people, I think people plot too much on average.
Yeah.
You want to plot to usually play around removal, but there isn't really an removal in Jesse's deck. But Cutter makes sense here for sure. So wanted to guarantee it. Didn't have a third land. Perfect.
Yep, and the way that this works out, if you plot it or play it with the fact that you don't have your second land and your Corey turn ready to go, you do the exact same amount of damage, right? Oh, I guess you do an extra point. Yeah, you do an extra point.
Right. So like just playing Slickshot on turn 2 is 1 point of damage, which is not a lot, and not always the thing you want to expose. But if your opponent can't take advantage of it, then,
I guess technically you do 1 less damage if you do it this way, but you get material on the battlefield. You get an extra monk, because if you play Slickshot show off, you'd get the prowess trigger. You'd deal 4 total damage. Now you dealt 3. But still, the monk is definitely worth 1 point of damage in a game like this.
Yeah, that's a real thing. I think it's important at this level is kind of the asking yourself why. So why did Julian plot that? And you think about it, well, it doesn't make a lot of sense because there aren't any removal spells. Why would you do that? Okay, well, 2 lands and a Corey Steel Cutter. Just no third land. Want to guarantee a double spell. So, and there you go. And then on Jesse's side, you kind of always, why you do that? Why you do that? Why you do this? So,
yeah, that's a great lesson, in my opinion. My brain, when I'm playing an event, I am asking myself 15 questions a game.
Yep.
I was like, why would he do this? Why? This doesn't make sense. If you had this, you would have done this, wouldn't you? My brain's basically just a madman just chatting to himself nonstop. But I think that is a healthy thing to be constantly asking your questions, don't you?
Wow.
Was that a brick?
That was a big miss there.
Oh, man. Jesse's like, come on, not like this.
That's tough. So Jesse managed to find the Tyvar and the Roots, which can kind of go off where every plant you make taps for mana immediately, but it has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And Tyvar not returning a creature and is now vulnerable. That's tough.
Really tough. So here's Opt. We're probably going to... We kept that on top. Would be shocked if we don't play land 3. And now this is Julian's game to win. If he can capitalize on Jesse's double miss land drop, the fact that he just cast a 3 mana gain 1 life, is pretty much what it's going to come out to. Mill over 3 cards, gain 1 life, I guess. Just really, really brutal sequence of events here from Jesse. That being said, Julian did torch the first Lana Wars, so, easily could have done some other things with extra mana if Julian allowed it.
If that had been a Burst Lightning, Lana Wars coming back.
Yeah.
And then we would see 2 mana, the mana from Lana Rolf and the mana from the root token.
Yeah, 100%.
More monks just flying in from the left, flying in from the right. Every Judge Rourke in the feature match area is ready with a monk for this tournament.
These monks are getting cray. There's one of the 4 into the Flood Maws. And this game already is starting to look unwinnable from Jesse.
Oh, it's a Rage too? Oh my god. Oh.
Is that just lethal?
Wow. That is tough.
Slickshot had 3 spells, so that was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 damage right there. Turn 4 win from Julian, and a huge, brutal aspect there from Jesse Piland. Really feeling for him. One of the nicest guy. I've chatted with him